Pals for Life.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Pals for Life. Pals for Life is weekly radio for anyone who wants to enjoy World of Warcraft with some extra pals. We've got your commentary on news, rumors, and a special segment we like to call The Boss Fight. Today is November 2nd, 2014. My name is Wilson, and I'm joined today by Randall.
How's it going, guys?
And Lane.
Howdy.
Today we've got heavy hearts, as we announce that due to some personal reasons, Nano will no longer be a regular guest on the show. So from here on out, me, Randall, and Lane will be regular hosts of Pals for Life. However, we hope to feature guest pals from time to time to keep things lively. But the drums of war still thunder. So let's jump right into this. Our Spellbreaker topic is a video that has basically all 42 new mounts in Warlords of Draenor with basically tips on what they look like and how to attain them.
A long video. It's like 20 minutes. It's a lot of mounts.
Yeah, lots of cool looking mounts. Some of them aren't that cool, I guess. But
yeah, I think, and you guys should certainly go watch the video on this because it's very informative, and the dude even specifically labels out how you're going to get most of these mounts. Really good stuff. Anyway, there are a lot of repeats in there. Lots of wolves that look very similar, lots of boars that look very similar, a couple color tweaks, maybe a little bit of fur here instead of there. And has this been like a typical thing with the other expansions?
Okay, so Lane, usually with most mounts, they like come in like a set of colors basically.
Oh, okay.
Usually like 4 or something like that. A lot of times. And that's it's been like that for pretty much ever, I think.
Okay, I heard him mention it in the video, and he sounded pretty disdained about it, so I thought it might be like a newer thing.
However, though, there are like usually, there are like certain mounts. There's kind of like a one of though, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like you have whose head is it, Wilson? An Old Dwarf?
Mimron's head?
Yeah, Mimron's head. Like that's probably like one of the most unique ones out there. There's only one like it, you know what I mean?
Okay.
No
yeah,
other.
there are definitely some ones like that in this one,
yeah.
So that's really cool.
And just shout out to Bellular Gaming. This is the channel that did actually put this video out, so want to give credit where it's due.
So, do we have some favorites between us, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. I really liked the Fellfire Hawk.
Oh, yeah. Definitely agree with that. I hate you because I kind of had that one as a favorite, too, when I was watching it.
Yeah, just like the flavor text is, Fellfire is deadly to the touch. Luckily, the Hawk can suppress the flames, choosing not to incinerate its rider in an emerald effigy.
That's
Christ.
just so cool.
Effigy?
Effigy, good one, bro.
We're just gonna
We
keep
in third grade here?
Alright.
Randall, what about you?
You're talking about how it's a 20-minute video. I'm gonna save everyone some time and tell them about the only mount that really matters, and that's the Gronling. So you basically get to ride your own mini Growl, people. If you don't want to ride a mini Growl, then I don't know what kind of person you are. So that's pretty much the only amount of importance as far as I'm concerned.
Have they had ones that look like that before? Is that the first time they've had people
No, this is the first time they've had Gronlings.
Okay, because
we've never had Gronlings.
Those ones really stuck out to me because I know I've seen you guys on like raptors and ostriches and elephants and tigers and lions and bears and all that crap, but nothing with arms and legs like that before. So
yep.
It's interesting.
Lane, how about you?
I'm kind of split, honestly. I like the Core Hound a lot because, I don't know, it's kind of a classic, and I like the aesthetics of like the lava and stuff like that. But the Ironhoof Destroyer also looks really cool to me, but apparently kind of hard to get, so never mind.
Well, that's what grinding's for.
Yeah, I mean, Lane's mentally preparing for when he subs, so he's got to take these things into consideration.
Totally.
Also, honorable mention here, the Mosshide River Wallow, it's a little later in the video, like 14 minutes in. It's a hippo.
Yeah, the ones that have the little canopy
thing? Or,
canvas. Yeah, those actually might be worth talking about outside of the Gronling. So I'll give them credit there.
I must have actually missed that. Whoops. I went through the video, I scrolled through the video and watched a good bit of it, but I missed the freaking hippos. Dang it.
They're they're also called river beast, right? That's what they are?
River Wallow.
Is that it? Oh, I thought they were river beast.
No, get out of here, Randall. Just kidding.
Might be.
But anyway, I mean, hippos are ferocious animals, if you guys didn't know that.
Oh, yes.
These guys look pretty serious.
That's really cool.
So, anyway, lots of new mounts in World of Draenor, so if you want to get a little bit of hype, since we're about 11 days out from the expansion, check out the video. But we're actually going to move right on to the boss fight. This is the segment of the show where Lane, who does not regularly play WoW, has played in the past, but not very much at all. So he's pretty much a WoW noob or non-WoW player. brings up a topic that he wants to discuss about WoW, and we have a lively discussion that usually ends in tears or victory for someone. So, Lane, what's your beef with WoW?
All right, so I've been kind of afraid to go into this subject because it's very touchy, and well, it's not really even touchy. It's just hard to argue against Blizzard on this one for a number of reasons. But the topic today, I think, is going to be aesthetics. I really dislike how WoW looks, and before you just jump in and cut my head straight off, I'd like to talk a little bit about what I mean. When I'm playing my character, walking through somewhere, going anywhere, in my time of about 1 to level 40, never really walked through anywhere that even just appealed to me at all. And this is not because WoW isn't visually pleasing or visually appealing, because I think it is, but I really dislike how this game looks. It's from 2004, right? It came out in 2004. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Obviously, that is a big factor here. They've been going through and updating the character models to better suit, the times, because they're very out of date, stuff like that. But it gets to me so much walking around in a game when I played 2012, I think. I played in 2012, walking around in this game, and everything looks like something I would have played back in 2004 still. It really bothered me. But there's like a little bit of a caveat to this. I think a good example of what I'm about to talk about would be the video that is our Spellbreaker. So in the video, there's like a flyover of a bunch of areas in WoW, and I was watching that. I was like, wow, some of these places are really cool looking. And I was like, well, wait, I hate how WoW looks. Why do I like these? And that's what led me to this conclusion. I hate how WoW looks from the ground floor. Blizzard has done a great job of making things very grand and colorful, but from my experience on the ground floor, it doesn't look like that. And that isn't necessarily a huge problem for most people, but I like to be sucked in visually into the games, and obviously I haven't gotten to like the later raids or anything like that. I know there's some visually impressive raids out there, like some things that are really cool, stuck with you guys, I'm sure. But I haven't gotten to that, and WoW has failed to impress me visually for a long, long time, and that definitely detracts the experience a bit. But there's something else I'd like to mention as well. Blizzard's really good at hiding this. Like, really good. They don't really care to mention it because their cinematics, their world building, every like piece they put into WoW is all made so well that the world seems so fleshed out and well put together. And that lends a lot to people not really, I guess, caring too much that the graphical prowess of this game is definitely not up to par with, normal games. And I don't know. That I feel personally that World of Warcraft doesn't hit the nail on the head graphically for me. I don't really know if it's the same for you guys. Like, I've never heard you guys talk about whether or not you like how WoW looks or anything like that. So from my perspective, I don't. So I want to hear what you guys think.
Okay, so first thing you have to remember is, like, from me and Wilson's perspective, we played the game since, like, 2004. Wilson, when did we start? 2005?
Yeah, 05.
05? Yeah. So, I mean, like, around that time, like, kind of all games looked like that-ish, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Or maybe slightly better or worse, depending on the game. But, it was pretty much the same as everything else that was out there as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
So that's not something that really, like, drew my attention before. So now, as we played and continue to play the game, we're just so used to the graphic style of it, and it's gradually increased a little bit also, so that's been nice. That it's not as much of an issue for people who have played the game, I think. But I could see where you're coming from a little bit. And just to be sure, you're talking about, it's kind of a mix of like the art style and the way they decided to choreograph it in ways, right?
Yeah. See, I like their art style for most things, but that's the thing that confuses me. When you pan the camera out, or when you just detach the camera and go flying around Azeroth, I think it looks freaking awesome. But as soon as you're walking around on the ground, it's just like Snoresville. Everything looks like the same color, and you're walking on this pixelated ground, and it just bothers the heck out of me.
Well, I've got a question for you, Lane. Have you ever tried turning your graphics settings up?
Well, that was back in... I was playing on your computer back then, actually, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I had the graphics on max. Like, I don't even know. So
one thing that they have done over the years is like they continue to up the texture resolution. So that does help to a degree. But that's definitely has an upper bound, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
You
can't just like you can't do that forever.
Yeah, and I mean at some point you're gonna get to some point where someone's toaster isn't gonna run things anymore, and then you pissed off someone, and I'm sure they don't want to do that. So it's a weird, delicate balance, and I think World of Warcraft is in a really odd spot. Like, what could you do at this point? I mean, you'd have to release, a sequel or something that could up the visual prowess, and with the subscriber base of WoW and how long the game's lasted and how many expansions have come out, it's not really on the table for that kind of thing. So, World of Warcraft is at a spot that no other game, well, very few other games have ever gotten to, where the game now looks extremely outdated. So, how do you keep the game looking fresh and new when it's been around for 10 years? And not only that, but how do you attract in players who are, visually attracted to things like myself? And I swear I'm not like a graphics whore or anything like that. I do like a good graphically oriented game every now and then. Like Crisis still tickles my fancy, but I'm not looking for that in World of Warcraft, obviously. It bothers me that from the outside, the game looks great when you're up in the air and stuff like that. And I mean, this even applies when you're flying around on mounts. I did that, traveling from place to place. It was like, hey, this game looks pretty freaking cool. And then I'm on the ground and everything looks stupid and boring again. And this is most of the general areas, obviously. I didn't really go into any raids or any crap like that, because I'm sure I'd love what Ragnaros's place looked like and all that. But I don't know, just outside perspective on that, it really turned me down on that. So
I also think that your experience isn't the full experience yet. Also, because you're talking about how you've only been from 1 to 40. Mm-hmm. A lot of those areas you've been in give like Azhara style, and I think everyone pretty much hates that place. So
God, that's so dumb though. Why aren't?
But
you gotta be shooting for the gold that early.
But outside of that, from like 1 to 60, like they're just. I think they're a lot more worried about making a playable game that people could experience as opposed to the landscape as much. Obviously, like there are some places in base Azeroth that look really good. Mm-hmm. Like if you've ever been to like Blackrock Mountain or something, it's a really cool place.
Yeah, I know.
But when you get to the expansions and you get to places like Nagrand and Zangar Marsh, like you don't have as many of the issues like you're talking about right now about it looking so flat and just kind of dull. It's a lot more interesting. Like in Zangar Marsh, you have like these like essentially like 100-foot mushrooms everywhere, right? And you're kind of like awing under them,
Yeah.
Like there's a lot more. It's a lot more aesthetically pleasing than original WoW was, I guess.
I think that's something WoW actually does pretty well. When I see things that I like to look at in World of Warcraft, they're usually big, tall things that you can sort of, just wonder at. And there are definitely very few examples of that in the first, 40 levels that I played. And maybe that's the issue we're talking about here instead. Maybe just the new player experience as far as being sucked into the world is not, quite where it should be. And I'm not really sure how they could change that or if it should change at all. But from an outside perspective, they didn't do anything to, really make me think the world was, very good looking.
Well, I think you still get some of the vistas, right? Like, for example, if you're Alliance and you play, if you're just around Ironforge, you see the gates of Ironforge. Those are massive.
Yeah, I don't.
Being in the cities helps, but also like just taking a flight path anywhere.
Yeah,
gives you a very much cinematic view of the world.
Yeah, and that's honestly why I'm still
so you do get that
about this, because flying around is a lovely, wonderful experience in World of Warcraft, and I was chomping at the bits to get a flying mount back then, and I don't think I ever did.
No, you couldn't have.
That was impossible.
Yeah,
okay.
Stop trying to. You just can't.
Why couldn't I?
Because you're too low of a level.
What level do you have
to cap out?
Oh, you have to cap to get flying mounts? That's interesting.
Well, back then, I mean, you don't have... Yeah.
Well,
But I mean, the thing is, like, all of the Burning Crusades landscape was designed with flying in mind.
yeah.
So that's why it was such a dramatic difference in, like, how these new zones felt compared to old Azeroth.
Did the base game have flying mounts in it?
No.
Oh,
That was like a huge draw for the Burning Crusade, actually.
interesting. Yeah, because I hear about Burning Crusade, and I honestly don't hear as much hype about it as like Wrath or Cataclysm. But I honestly don't really know what happened because I don't think I ever heard you guys talk about it.
I mean, I think me and Olsen both agree that Burning was the best.
The best, yeah.
The best.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the best expansion as well. It's also the one I had, I think I may have, well, I played a couple of other expansions pretty heavily, but, it was the first expansion.
Yeah.
And it contributed to the success of the Wrath of the Lich King, which was, the highest point, I think.
Yeah, as far as playing went, yeah. Like,
for subscriber
players,
base.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
so
yeah, we're getting a little off track, but still. I think the thing I take away from this is it really confuses me that I can be up in the air and love how this game looks so much and then be on the ground and just hate it. Not really hate it, but it just doesn't impress me when I'm down on the ground looking at it. But I'm not really sure how they could deal with that. They really can't. And I heard that they're moving the starting area from the Blasted Lands after Warlords of Draenor. So not the starting area, but good lord, I don't remember what it's called, but a lot of the earlier leveling from the Blasted Lands to somewhere else. So maybe I'll get to level in some place that looks cooler.
So you are going to be leveling, okay.
Hey, what? I didn't say that. I didn't say that. What the heck?
Yeah, it definitely sounded like you said that.
I mean, Lane playing expansion aside, I think that we'll be seeing, very much more composed landscapes in Worlds of Draenor because it is, once again, it is Draenor, so it is going to be the same landscapes we saw in Burning Crusade, just reimagined and restored in some ways.
Yeah, I do like the things that I saw from the different expansions and stuff like that. And you guys speak only highly about Burning Crusade and I guess the other expansions too. I mean, I guess I really paid attention more to what you guys were doing around the time of Wrath and Cataclysm. Definitely Cataclysm. I remember that very well. And so, I don't really remember Burning Crusade, but if you guys speak highly of it, then I'm sure I'm gonna enjoy looking at it, so.
Yeah, you will.
I think that, to try to bring some sort of closure to this boss fight, you bring up an interesting point of just, how the world is presented, and obviously there's some natural constraints of making sure that the game is accessible to, a wide number of people on different machines.
Yes, absolutely. They
so
set such a low standard so early. Well, not necessarily a low standard, but the graphics capability back then has, just jumped 10 times over, like a lot. A freaking lot.
I think you used to be able to get away with, like, I don't know what the base requirements are. I thought it was like 512 megabytes of RAM
love the box.
for a while. It's not in arm's reach. But yeah, I can't move now. It's too much.
Okay. Well, if you have the box around, I bet it would say that.
Yeah, well, if anyone knows that's listening right now, help us out with the original WoW base requirements. Otherwise, we will report back next week with that information.
Yeah. So, yeah, honestly, not a whole lot to take away from this boss fight. It's just my personal tastes are a little bit singed by the initial time you get in World of Warcraft. But, yeah, the system requirements and things like that of the original WoW are a tad bit of a hindrance on the graphical prowess, I think, and that's just completely unavoidable at this point. So Blizzard, make the most out of it.
I think this is going to be a good sign for us to eventually start orienting our boss fights more towards Warlords of Draenor. So it'll be an exciting new chapter for us here in a couple weeks.
Okay.
But for now, we're going to move over to Tavern Talk. This is the section of the show which is basically news and rumors heard from all over. And the first item on the list we've got here is an article from Polygon that has it's reporting on some research that just says that World of Warcraft and Hearthstone could dominate retirement home gaming, which is a thing. WoW and retirement homes.
Yeah, I mean, Hearthstone to me is extremely obvious. Card game, no physical anything required other than the computer. Even the graphical settings aren't terribly, high, which, again, Blizzard going for the low graphical setting stuff. But obviously the game is appealing. It's fun to play. It's pretty easy to understand as far as card games go. And, I mean, just the simplicity of all of it comes together really well for something like this.
In my head, I was just imagining, like, retirement home guilds.
Oh, gosh.
And, racing each other to, like, get the top spots and different things. That'd be pretty cool.
That'd be legit. I hope that exists.
And think about all the time that they have on their hands,
Yeah, that's the thing.
They could really do some stuff.
They could do anything.
Yeah.
They could take over the world.
Other, like, top guilds, y'all should watch out, retirement homes are going to take y'all over.
So yeah, this is a new study from Superdata Research, and there's just a breakdown of these demographics, and basically that MMOs are a growing sector for gamers as they age, and obviously our lifespans are getting longer and longer with just quality of life improvements as a whole. I just wonder if these retirement home gamers were playing MMOs before or after they got in their retirement home.
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting point. I guess it really depends on the age they go in, because I can see 50-year-old guys picking up WoW in its early days, and then...
Do 50-year-old people go to retirement homes?
No. Like, 10 years later, maybe they decide, I'm just done with this, I'm going to the retirement home. And then they're like 60, but then how do you... It's really hard to think about people that much older than ourselves starting on this game back then, because the typical demographic, or the one that you hear about the most for World of Warcraft, is that college kid demographic, the one that was sitting around with nothing to do for a few years and decided to make World of Warcraft the biggest game in the world. So
right.
It is really hard for me to think of this, rationally in my mind. How does that even work?
Yeah, and maybe this is like slightly off of what the article is getting at. It might be something, and this is way off in the future. Who knows what's going to happen by the time that we're of the age that we're retired. But, that would really, I would think, be the time that people who are retired would be playing video games of this kind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because we're the generation that really kind of started, just mass gameplay, I guess, if that makes sense.
And, I mean, these games are massive time sinks, so...
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, it's a good choice.
Yeah, and I guess like kind of the other last really interesting part is that, a lot of these gamers are women as well, because I guess some of this data shows that they prefer RPGs. So it's interesting to see that there's a kind of a spread of players in MMOs. And we've already known that for a while, that the girls like to play WoW.
Yep, even my girlfriend did.
We'll be wondering to see just how long people can play WoW, if WoW is going to finish before these players finish.
Hey, they've got the plans for 10 more years at least.
Or will WoW be still going before I die,
Yeah. Off, like
there's
50 years in the future, or whatever.
There's our question for you. So, the next item we've got here is an interesting trademark appears, Eye of Azhara. Basically, BlizzCon is 1 week out, and there is time again for some interesting trademarks to come around. Eye of Azhara has come out along with this trademark Overwatch. So, there's a lot of speculation here, and people are saying, well, it's going to be Hearthstone stuff. And I think that Overwatch would make sense with Hearthstone, right? Because, we've got all these mechanical cards that you could play easily in that. But I feel like Eye of Azhara, that just sounds like WoW expansion material.
Yeah, you know what? You're probably right. Because I originally thought Eye of Azhara probably Hearthstone related. Because I feel like something's coming up with Hearthstone. I mean, they've already got Nax out. And so, Overwatch does sound way better to me. The longer names seem to be reserved for World of Warcraft, let's be totally honest.
Well, it's like three words too, like X of something.
And I mean, Curse of Naxxramas is the Hearthstone one, correct? But I mean, most people just call it Nax or Naxxramas, and so I don't know. It just feels more World of Warcraft. You're right. Mm-hmm. What's the Metal Arms thing? Is that also another one? We're looking on the website that this guy dug up the trademarks for, and it's got an Eye of Azhara one at the top, a whole bunch of ones of Overwatch, and then a StarCraft one, randomly, and then one below that is Metal Arms. Do we know anything about that one?
Nothing with Metal Arms.
Nope, no idea.
That may have been out for a while too.
Yeah.
When they got registered even.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would be interested to see, it would totally make sense for them to announce a WoW expansion.
Again at BlizzCon, you mean?
Well, yeah, the timing fits. I think because even though it is a little soon. Like,
do you really think that they'd do that?
Well, they've already said that they're hard at work on that expansion. They've already talked that they are at work on the 6th expansion. So,
and I can't remember. Maybe I'm just pulling stuff out of thin air here, but I think they were talking about because what expansion? Mists of Pandaria. Wow, that was really hard for me to get to.
Laughing for you right now.
That was really hard for me to get to. Anyway.
I snapped.
Cute. They were talking about how, this one was kind of long-winded, I think. There was a point where it was just like a year of downtime. You know what I mean? Like there was an entire year where there was no, major update.
Yes.
And I think, players just did not like that. I mean, you could see it in the subscription drop. It was boring. I mean, what can you do in a game like WoW when there's nothing added? I mean, WoW is all about, getting additions. And, even, like Burning Crusade, and the original X-Pack, they had everything coming out pretty smoothly. And then when things started to slow down, they'd release their next expansion. And I think Mists of Pandaria really lacked on that. So I think we're going back to a formula where they're going to release expansions a little earlier than they did previously.
They did say at some point they wanted to get on like a yearly-ish, schedule for that. At some point, didn't they originally say that, and then they just never did it?
Yeah, that was like how they were supposed to do it initially.
Yeah, so maybe they're going to try to resolve to get back to that if this is a World of Warcraft expansion.
The team did grow by 50%, a little while ago.
They've got a little more.
They've been working with that team for about a year now, I think, or a year and a half.
They definitely got
some
hands to tinker with. So,
I mean, I know, I would definitely be more encouraged to keep playing WoW if I knew that new content was going to be coming out more frequently, I guess. Mm-hmm. And while that does mean I'll, quote unquote, I'd spend more money, I probably just would stop buying other games instead, if that makes sense. like I would be spending the same amount of money regardless. It's just, if I can't allocate my time to WoW or something because it's getting stale, I'm going to spend my money in other places. Just how it works.
Fair enough. Well, if you guys have any Eye of Azhara conspiracy theories for us, we'd love to hear them. palsforlife.net, that's the email address. But our last item on the list here is a interview, 10 years of WoW, with the lead designer. His name is Ion Hazikostas. Probably killed that. That was terrible. But that's the general idea of his name. And basically, he's interviewed by CNET, and they kind of talk about the future of WoW, along with just some other stuff about WoW being around for so long. First question out of the box here is, what's your perspective on WoW's ongoing success? There's more competition than ever, but the player base seems to be growing again as the new expansion approaches. And for him, he basically feels like there are kind of two things working here. They've been able to increase the breadth and accessibility of the game over the years, and they recognize the player, and how the player has changed over the years. So, the person who picked up the game at the start of WoW was like the student that Lane was talking about, that kid with a bunch of free time who's now, a career person or a family person, that's got, only an hour and a half to play WoW if they're lucky on a given night. So, and on top of that, there's just a new generation of players coming in, which I don't know how big that generation is, because that's where it's super competitive, because they're fighting up against League of Legends and other games like that. But yeah, those two things have been working in hand, according to him. What do you guys think?
There's that wonderful word, accessibility. I'm glad that Blizzard at least acknowledges that they've made a lot of changes for accessibility in the last however long they've been doing that. But that's absolutely what I would feel is correct. It's gone from kids to young adults and adults, and I don't really know that many people that were our age when this came around that are starting to play now. It's kind of just grown up along with us, like we said. And I can't really see it unless they make some sort of weird big change. I can't see this game, hopping back to the younger generation and starting from there again. It's just going to follow us, I guess, as long as we're willing to play it.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely chase that core audience that kind of comes and goes.
Mm-hmm.
There's another question here that's, I think, worth talking about, and basically that, once upon a time, people were wondering about WoW 2, and obviously, they've kind of canceled Titan, but they just asked him, like, after 10 years, is Blizzard feeling like they need a new separate game, like Lane was saying also, to kind of break that gap of just continual improvement. And basically Hazy Costa says that it's a smooth curve and that, obviously it's not the same game it was 10 years ago. And that they've just been able to provide, like, features, here and there all over the place to basically recreate the game at a much more iterative pace. So,
yeah, the game
I don't know, I
is
guess
much different than it used to be. There's no denying that.
Oh yeah, it's changed considerably. Give maybe some cartoony graphics still, but even that's changed. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they've also introduced, like stuff to really change the breadth of the game, like the pet system. I mean, the pet battle system. Whether you like it or not, it's definitely a pretty fleshed out system.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't care for it, but I'm sure it's intricate.
Another interesting thing that he notes on here is that this is not a time travel expansion. They're not getting into weird timeline continuity stuff. They're not going back and changing the course. This is an alternate timeline, so it is a completely separate parallel timeline.
Yeah, pretty interesting, because I originally thought it was altering the timeline, but I think not altering it is a better idea.
Save the rage.
I still wonder kind of how they, maybe I just didn't read some of our, some of the stuff we did in our previous cast very well, like articles and stuff. But how exactly they're getting around, not having any of the previous characters that are coming back, like Murad and others, not be able to see other versions of themselves, basically, I guess.
Oh yeah, I remember us talking about that.
I mean, it's something weird. I can't remember, but basically, anyone that's visiting there will not see themselves.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I'm sure we'll find out.
Even though, obviously some people would be there, right? But,
Murad, etc.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
I'm sure we'll find out.
Yeah, and basically one of the other things that he mentions that there's just a lot of really interesting little segments that you can kind of carve off here and there to really explore. So it sounds like they've got some surprises tucked away in the expansion that they've either brushed on or haven't given a whole bunch of coverage, just so that when you do play you can be like, oh wow, garrisons are this amazing black box where you can just do whatever you want and spend a lot of time.
Yeah.
So feel free to read the entire manuscript of this, or watch the interview in person, or via video, rather. In person?
Yeah, I was about to say.
Well, you'll be there in person, in front of your computer. But anyway, we've got it on the show notes, so feel free to check it out. We're going to move on over to Trade Chat. This is a section of the show where we hear from you guys, our listeners. But before we do that, our guild, we do have a guild, is called PFL, and it's live on the Emerald Dream Alliance side. So if you're interested in that, feel free to check out the show notes for our battle tags.
And just want to give a shout out to Ao and Trevor. I've been a little busy this week, so sorry I haven't been on too much, but hopefully y'all will see me on in the coming days.
Big shout out to both of them.
Big shout out.
Actually, got another great message from Trevor this week, and basically he had some really good stuff to say about World of Warcraft, mostly to how it's changed, and he wanted to say that a lot of people that started playing the game were this demographic that didn't have the family, the career, or anything like that, and they've had to grow up with this game. So it has been a huge change. And basically he has these things he never plays without heirlooms, and the game is a lot more fun with friends, and I agree with that part as well. And apparently he actually did his Shadowmourne quest this weekend, which is really sweet.
How fun.
But he ultimately agrees that LFG is a good tool. So even though it is fun to play with your friends, that it does allow it was an innovation at the time. And also that BlizzCon has always had a big musical group to close the con. Sometimes it's a big group and sometimes it's a funnier group. So Foo Fighters and Tenacious D are good examples there. Those are both acts they've had. So it's not without tradition to for Metallica to be at the event.
I guess for me it was I think this is, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't pay attention to BlizzCon very much, so I could totally be wrong in this, but from all the times, I've heard about BlizzCon and stuff, that wasn't necessarily the highlight, I guess, right? On this one, if you go onto your Battle.net, it's plastered across the screen. It's Metallica, right? I mean, honestly, it's their selling point this time, to me, anyway.
I
Fair
like
enough.
Jack Black and Tenacious D, and I like the Foo Fighters, and I had no idea they'd ever been to BlizzCon.
Yeah. So I think maybe this is the first time it's been broadcasted so much.
Maybe so.
Fair enough. Well, we've also got, and thank you very much, Trevor. Always enjoy to hear from you. But we've also got a few big questions from Rheinbaum, who made a comment on the site. And here's his first question is basically, he's noticed that we don't swear much. He hears a lot of fricks and heck and gosh darn it. But he was just wondering if this is a guild policy that we have, and he's just curious because he joined a guild in Rift that had a strict anti-cursing policy, and every once in a while, he'd actually drop a choice word or two, and they were not very impressed.
Ooh, I can take this one. I can take it.
Go ahead.
We don't really have a guild thing about that. Honestly, we're pretty open to it. We just try to keep it, friendly on the show, just in case we have somebody listening, which
Younger age.
Yeah, younger age. We're not trying to leave impressions on people or anything. So we just keep it mostly clean on the show, just in case, basically. But in the guild, totally fine.
I mean, if you hear us off the show, you might think that we're just fresh off the boat at Booty Bay, sailors.
That is almost the exact joke I was going to make. I'm kind of upset right now.
Ooh. Thunderstole.
The brothers, the mind link is real. Wilson just doesn't tell you. He's like, I'm going to steal this from his brain real quick. Hold on. And then he goes.
Dude.
Mr. Steal your joke.
All right.
At any rate, Randall, though, I think you wanted to maybe kind of ask the audience or listeners here a question, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we've been all moderately debating about making our show a little more adult. As in, we're not talking about triple X or anything here. We're just talking about choice of language. Naturally, we speak a little more vigorously, almost, I guess, is one way to put it. We're not, we don't really have muzzles on our mouths in real life. We just do this because we know that younger people might be listening, but, we could possibly make this a podcast for people who like that kind of thing, I guess. And if that's something y'all would be interested in, you would like to have a podcast that was maybe more relaxed when it comes to language, let us know. That's something we definitely consider doing, and we've talked about it a couple times also. Just not something that is of utmost importance to the show, I guess.
And if anything, we may just do an explicit episode just for kicks sometime. Yeah. Maybe when we're a little sleep deprived after playing too much Warlords of Draenor here in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But the second question that we have from Rheinbaum is, what is our guy's relation to Leroy? He's listened to all our podcasts. We haven't referenced the fact that we have the same guild name. So our guild is called PFL. And no, we're not related to Pals for Life, Laughing Skull, anything like that. We just like the name a lot, and we think that, it kind of has a good resonance with, how we enjoy WoW.
It's very fit. We thought it was, very fitting for WoW, and it also hits kind of our generation very well. It's something that people our age would get, I guess. And older, of course, but.
It's got a nice ring to it, too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Palace for Life? Yeah.
But that being said, we'd love to have Leroy on the show sometime. So, Leroy.
Get to it.
Pull him out of wherever he's not playing WoW anymore. I mean, maybe he's playing WoW.
Who knows?
And then the last question here, and this is a bit of more of a long, loaded question that we may have to inspect over time, especially as the expansion comes around, is basically he's curious about how our PvP servers work with respect to griefing. He's found that role players and PvPers generally act quite differently. And he's not really into either of those things, but he's tried out both, and he just says that, whatever you'll say about the weird RPers at the Goldshire Inn, at least they're not trying to annoy anyone. Whereas PvPers are always trying to, make the innocent cry, and, Lane, you have a first-hand experience with this.
Yeah.
So he's always loved the idea of world PvP, but the only kind he ever encounters is him spontaneously exploding because somebody 30 levels higher looked at him. So, basically, how do people act on our PvP servers?
Well, I really think
RP PvP. I missed a P there.
So, at least for me, I'm not we've always done some kind of PvP server. I think it's always been RP PvP, actually, right?
Yeah.
Any server we've ever been on?
Pretty much only done that.
I mean, I think we kind of like the game being almost hard mode, if that makes sense.
The world PvP thing has been
it's more engaging with all the other players, but I could understand how some people don't like it. So, I'm definitely biased on this, but I think on RP PvP server it might be a little less aggressive. But I think there are definitely people who are on RP PvP servers who pretty much treat it as a PvP server and, just go to town. I've definitely thought about, just going on a massacre sometimes just because I can, right? I mean, just who doesn't want to be a god, basically, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Well, when godhood knocks on your door, you don't
say no.
You answer it. But I think that honestly, on RP PvP servers, it's very guild specific. So there's certain guilds that are notorious for, carrying out PvP events.
Yeah, that's very true.
But I think you do, honestly, a lot of times you'll see kind of this interesting niceness from the opposite faction in an RP PvP server occasionally.
Yeah.
Just because
It's honestly
they want to make fun.
more high stakes, is it not? It's not really high stakes, but just that you have the option and have the choice to say, yes, I'm going to kill you, or no, I'm not. Doesn't that it makes it so much more meaningful, does it not? Like,
yeah,
some of the encounters you make. In my opinion, just go off on a limb here.
WoW right now is definitely at like a low point of world PvP in a lot of ways. Maybe this is just me, but like, even when I'm just like mining around or whatever, where in Mist of Pandaria where there actually might be some activity, like I hardly see anyone. When I do, almost nothing ever happens. Even when I try to like kill somebody, they usually just fly away on their mount.
Peace.
Which is like really boring. Like I really just want to kill you. So
Get back here, I want to murder you.
So you should honestly stop that, whoever you are. But I think that's because one, everyone's doing like all kinds of looking for group type stuff, right? So they're not really out exploring anywhere. So you have a lot less of just people roaming around killing stuff because they're in queue and it's going to take like 5 minutes and then they're going to get in a group and then they're going to do their thing. So they don't have any reason to go explore and kill lower levels. And that's just kind of a change in the game actually. So I don't think it's really as much of an issue anymore as it used to be for the lower levels, I guess.
Yeah, I would say it's a spectrum on RP PvP servers. Like, you'll kind of find it all.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not dominant one way or the other.
Yeah.
And here's just a little bit of stream of consciousness from Rhymebomb, and I just think this is great. I gotta read it. And he's talking about, getting ganked basically. And here it is. I mean, how absurd is it to be singled out by a champion of the universe flying around on his time-lost protodrake in between murdering orc chieftains and demon princes? Here's a guy that farted on Kill Jaden a couple times, looted his purples, then hearthed out because he simply couldn't be bothered witnessing the whole death animation. Yet somehow he can find the time to slap your face off, then force your ghost to watch him teabag your mangled corpse.
Never really thought about it like that. That almost makes it more enjoyable from like my end, if I like us to do that. It's kind of encouraging.
That just speaks to my heart. I know the pain. So, Rhymebomb, thanks a lot for reaching out. We really appreciate hearing from you.
Yeah.
It was a great topic to talk about.
And as always, we do enjoy hearing from Trevorius Maximus, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix Legions, and loyal servant of the true King Magni. I don't know if I can keep saying this.
Yep. Clap, 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 clap.
Clap.
At this point, we're going to close out the show. Thanks for the group, and thanks for tuning in this week. And I also want to just give a special thanks to Nano for joining us for the first 10 episodes of our show. We really enjoyed having him, and we hope to have him as a special guest as often as we can.
Most definitely.
Please feel free to shoot us any questions, complaints, or screenshots of your time-lost protodrake to pals@palsforlife.net. And to listen to any of our previous episodes, check out our website, palsforlife.net. And of course, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and anywhere else podcasts are found. Until next time, this has been Pals for Life.
Yeah. Later.
Bye.
Okay.
We're done here.
Da 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 da.
That noise. Da da
da da da da da da da da.
All right, guys.
Boys.
Let's get it percolating.
Percolating.
Percolating water.
Well, so what is it Trevor says? The one true King Magni? Whatever.
Trevorius Maximus, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix Legions, loyal servant of the true King Magni?
You practiced that for a while, buddy.
That's in full-stone practice.
Don't mean a thing. Ain't no thing. But
it don't mean a thing
if you ain't got that swing.
Dang, dude, like, okay. I get like kind of like, I don't feel like playing WoW, and then I think about a Gronling as a mount. And I'm like, what was I thinking?